We all have favorite songs from the 70s that we've heard 1,000 times. But what if some of those songs weren't originals at all? What if your favorite artist was actually covering someone else's work and you never knew it? The 70s were filled with covers that became more famous than the originals. Sometimes so much so that people forgot there ever was an original version. Here are 15 songs from the 1970s you didn't know are covers. Number 15, Blinded by the Light by Manfred Mann's Earth Band. When this song hit number 1 in February 1977, most people had no idea it was a Bruce Springsteen composition. Bruce had released it as the opening track on his 1973 debut album Greetings from Asbury Park, NJ, but it went nowhere as a single. 3 years later, Manfred Mann's Earth Band transformed it into a 7-minute prog rock epic that topped the charts. Springsteen wrote it after Columbia Records president Clive Davis told him his album lacked a potential single. He used a rhyming dictionary and created an autobiographical song referencing his drummer Vinny Lopez, neighborhood characters, and his love of hot rods. Manfred Mann heard the album thanks to a Philadelphia DJ named Ed Saiki. When new vocalist Chris Thompson joined the band, they began working on their arrangement without Thompson ever listening to Springsteen's original. The Earth Band version changed some lyrics. Most famously, Springsteen's "Cut Loose Like a Deuce" became "Revved Up Like a Deuce," which many listeners heard as something entirely different. The band added the piano exercise chopsticks to help transition between sections, and the result gave Springsteen his first and only number 1 as a songwriter. Number 14, Without You by Harry Nilsson. Harry Nilsson heard this song at a party in 1971 and thought it was a Beatles tune. When he found out it was by Badfinger, he immediately decided to record it for his album Nilsson Schmilsson. The original was written by Badfinger members Pete Ham and Tom Evans and appeared on their 1970 album No Dice. Ham had written a song called If It's Love, but it lacked a strong chorus. Evans contributed his own incomplete song, and when they combined them, they created Without You. Nilsson wanted to record it as a stark, piano-only ballad, but producer Richard Perry convinced him to turn it into a grand production with full orchestra. The result was completely different. Where Badfinger's version was subdued, Nilsson's soared with dramatic strings and emotional intensity. The single reached number 1 in February 1972 and stayed there for 4 weeks. It also topped charts in the UK, Australia, Ireland, and New Zealand. Paul McCartney later called it the killer song of all time. For Badfinger, this was a dream come true. Tom Evans later recalled Harry walking into their London studio and playing them his version. Sadly, both Ham and Evans would later die by suicide, their tragic ends casting a shadow over this beautiful song's legacy. Number 13, The First Cut is the Deepest by Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart took this song to number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1977, but Cat Stevens wrote it in 1965 when he was just 17 and gave it to P. Arnold, a soul singer who'd been a backup vocalist for Ike and Tina Turner. Arnold's version came out in 1967 and was moderately successful in the UK. Cat Stevens recorded his own version for his 1967 album New Masters, but it wasn't released as a single then. The song went through several versions before Rod Stewart recorded it a decade later. Stewart's version appeared on his 1976 album A Night on the Town and became a double A-side single. His raspy voice and mid-70s production gave it a completely different feel. It became one of his signature songs, and many people assumed he'd written it. Number 12. Me and Bobby McGee by Janis Joplin. This is Janis Joplin's signature song, released posthumously in 1971 and reaching number 1. But Chris Christopherson wrote it, and Roger Miller was the first to record it in 1969. Christopherson wrote the song inspired by a suggestion from Monument Records founder Fred Foster. Roger Miller's 1969 version was country-oriented and didn't make much impact. Gordon Lightfoot also recorded a version. But when Janis Joplin got hold of it in 1970, she transformed it completely. She changed the gender of the narrator and sang it with the raw, emotional intensity that defined her career.
Feeling good was good enough for me.
Joplin recorded it days before her death in October 1970. The album Pearl was released in January 1971, and Me and Bobby McGee shot to number 1, becoming her only number 1 hit and a posthumous triumph that cemented her legend.
Good enough for me and my Bobby McGee.
Number 11. Black Magic Woman by Santana.
I've got a black magic woman, got me so blind.
Everyone associates this song with Santana's 1970 version, but Fleetwood Mac founder Peter Green wrote and recorded it in 1968. The original was bluesier and more straightforward, reaching number 37 in the UK. 2 years later, Carlos Santana heard it and recorded it for Abraxas. They slowed it down, added Latin percussion, and connected it with Gypsy Queen. Santana's version reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of their most recognizable songs. Most people had no idea it started as a blues rock tune by a different band.
Got a black magic woman.
Number 10. I Fought the Law by The Clash. The Clash's 1979 version of this song is probably the most famous, but it has a longer history. Sonny Curtis of the Crickets originally wrote it, and the Crickets recorded it in 1960. That version went nowhere. Then the Bobby Fuller 4 covered it in 1966, reaching number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song faded until The Clash discovered it and recorded their version for a British EP. They gave it their signature punk energy, and it became a staple of their live shows. What's interesting is how the song's anti-authority message resonated differently in each era. Rockabilly in 1960, garage rock in 1966, and full punk protest by 1979. Number 9. Killing Me Softly with His Song by Roberta Flack. Roberta Flack's 1973 version became a massive hit, topping the Billboard Hot 100 and winning Grammys, but folk singer Lori Lieberman recorded it first in 1971.
Killing me softly with his song, killing me softly.
Lieberman saw Don McLean perform and was so moved she wrote a poem. Songwriters Norman Gimbel and Charles Fox turned it into a song. Lieberman's version didn't get much attention.
Killing me softly with his song, killing me softly.
2 years later, Roberta Flack heard it on a plane and knew she had to record it. She transformed it from a folk song into a soul ballad. Her version spent 5 weeks at number 1 and became one of the defining songs of the decade. Lieberman's name faded from the story, and most people assumed Flack had recorded the original.
Strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my...
Number 8. Hush by Deep Purple.
Hush, hush, I thought I heard it calling my name.
Deep Purple's 1968 version of this song gave them their first hit in America, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. But Joe South had written and recorded it 2 years earlier in 1967.
Hush, hush, she broke my heart, but I love just the same now.
Joe South was a respected songwriter and session musician in Nashville who'd written hits for other people. His version of Hush was more of a straightforward rock song with a southern feel. It was released as a single but didn't chart nationally, though it did get some regional airplay.
Hush, hush, she broke my heart, but I love her just the same now.
When Deep Purple, a British band trying to break into the American market, heard the song, they decided to record it. They added their organ-driven rock sound and John Lord's distinctive Hammond playing. Ritchie Blackmore's guitar work and Rod Evans's vocals gave it more power than the original had possessed. The song became Deep Purple's breakthrough in America. Though ironically it didn't do as well in the UK, it established them as a band to watch and led to bigger things as they developed their heavier sound in the early 70s. By the time they recorded classics like Smoke on the Water, they'd moved far beyond covering Joe South songs, but Hush had opened the door for them. Joe South went on to write other hits including Games People Play, which won him Grammy Awards, but most Deep Purple fans had no idea that Hush was a cover, assuming it was an original composition by the band they loved.
She broke my heart, but I love her just the same now. Hush, hush.
Number 7. Hurt So Bad by Linda Ronstadt.
It makes me hurt so bad to see you again.
Linda Ronstadt's 1980 version of this song reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100, but the original was a 1960s soul classic by Little Anthony and the Imperials. Their version came out in 1965 and reached number 10 on the charts.
Love me again. I can't let you go back.
Little Anthony and the Imperials version was pure 60s soul, with tight harmonies and production that captured the sound of that era. The song was about heartbreak and the pain of seeing an ex with someone new, and Little Anthony's emotional delivery made it powerful. 15 years later, Linda Ronstadt recorded her version for her album Mad Love. She was known for taking older songs and reimagining them with contemporary production. And that's exactly what she did here. Her version had more of a pop rock feel while maintaining the emotional core of the original.
It's gonna hurt so bad to see you again.
Ronstadt's version introduced the song to a new generation who'd been too young to hear the original in 1965. Many of her fans assumed it was a new song written specifically for her. The success of her cover version demonstrated her ability to find great material from the past and make it relevant for contemporary audiences.
Come back, it hurts so bad.
Number 6. Piece of My Heart by Janis Joplin. This is another Janis Joplin song that most people associate exclusively with her, but it was originally recorded by Irma Franklin, Aretha Franklin's older sister, in 1967. Irma's version was released on Shout Records and did moderately well, reaching number 62 on the pop charts and number 10 on the R&B charts.
Take another little piece of my heart now, baby.
Big Brother and the Holding Company with Janis Joplin on vocals heard the song and decided to record it for their 1968 album Cheap Thrills. Janis transformed it from a relatively polished soul song into a raw, emotional powerhouse that showcased her ability to channel pure feeling through her voice.
Take another little bit of my heart now, yeah.
Where Irma Franklin's version was smooth and controlled, Janis Joplin's version was wild and unrestrained. She didn't just sing the song, she attacked it, wringing every ounce of emotion from every syllable. Her performance on Cheap Thrills became legendary, and the song became one of her signature tunes. The song reached number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1968 and helped establish Joplin as a major star. For most rock fans, this was the only version they knew. Irma Franklin's original was excellent, but Joplin's interpretation was so powerful that it completely overshadowed it. Even today, when people think of Piece of My Heart, they think of Janis screaming it with everything she had. Number 5. I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Joan Jett's 1982 version of this song became her signature hit, spending 7 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. But the song was originally recorded by a British band called The Arrows in 1975. The Arrows were a band that appeared on a British television show, and they released I Love Rock and Roll as a single. Their version had a glam rock feel that fit the mid-70s UK music scene, but it never charted in America and only reached number 59 in the UK. Joan Jett saw the Arrows perform the song on their TV show while she was touring England with the Runaways in 1976. She immediately loved it and knew she wanted to record it someday. After the Runaways broke up, she formed Joan Jett and the Blackhearts and recorded her version in 1981. Jett's version was rawer and more aggressive than the original. She took the glam elements and made them punk, giving the song a harder edge that matched her image as a rock rebel. Her video for the song, set in a bar with Jett singing to patrons, became iconic on MTV. The songwriters Alan Merrill and Jake Hooker of the Arrows were thrilled that their composition had become such a massive hit. Even if most people thought Joan Jett had written it, Merrill later said everyone knew Joan's version, but ironically, it wasn't the one that made him the most money, since he earned more from licensing and other covers over the years. Number 4. Dancing in the Moonlight by King Harvest. This mellow, feel-good song became a hit in 1973, reaching number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. King Harvest's version is the one everybody remembers, but they didn't write it. Sherman Kelly, who was part of a band called Boffalongo, wrote the song in 1970. Kelly wrote the song after recovering from a brutal attack he'd suffered in St. Croix in 1969, despite the violent incident that inspired it. The song itself was joyous and uplifting, capturing a perfect moment of celebration and community. Boffalongo recorded the original version in 1970, but it went nowhere. The band broke up shortly afterward. 2 years later, Kelly had moved on and was now part of King Harvest, and they decided to re-record the song. This version, with its distinctive organ sound and smooth vocals, caught fire. The King Harvest version was slower and more polished than Boffalongo's original. It had that early 70s soft rock sound that made it perfect for AM radio. The song became a summer staple and has remained popular ever since, getting covered again in the late 90s by Top Loader with even more success. Most people who bought King Harvest's record in 1973 had no idea there was an earlier version, or that the songwriter had been inspired by something so dark. They just heard a perfect song about dancing under the stars, and that was enough. Number 3. The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face by Roberta Flack. Roberta Flack's 1972 version of this song spent 6 weeks at number 1 and won Grammy Awards for Record of the Year and Song of the Year. But British folk singer Ewan MacColl wrote it in 1957 and first recorded it in 1962. MacColl wrote the song for Peggy Seeger, who would become his wife. It was originally a simple folk song, and MacColl's version was sparse and intimate. Over the years, various folk artists recorded it, but it remained relatively obscure outside folk music circles. In 1969, Flack heard the song and recorded it for her debut album, First Take. Her version was slow, sensual, and completely different from MacColl's folk original. She transformed it into a soul ballad that built gradually over its 5-minute running time. The song didn't become a massive hit until 1972, when Clint Eastwood used it in his film Play Misty for Me. The movie's success drove people to buy Flack's album, and the song was released as a single 3 years after she'd recorded it. It became the biggest song of 1972.
ever I saw.
Ewan McColl reportedly had mixed feelings about Flack's version. He felt she'd sung it too slowly and changed its meaning, but there was no denying that her interpretation had taken his composition and made it known worldwide, earning him substantial royalties in the process.
Ever I saw.
Number 2. Superstition by Stevie Wonder. This is a tricky one because Stevie Wonder's 1972 version is the original recording that was released, but the song was actually written for guitarist Jeff Beck. Wonder and Beck had been working together, and Wonder wrote Superstition specifically for Beck's album, with Beck supposedly contributing to its development. The plan was for Beck to release his version first, but Motown founder Berry Gordy heard what Wonder had recorded and insisted that Stevie release it himself. Wonder's version came out first in October 1972 and became a massive hit, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Beck's version finally appeared on his 1973 album Beck, Bogart, and Apis, but by then Wonder's version had already defined the song. Beck's version was good, but it couldn't compete with Wonder's funk masterpiece that had already conquered the world. This caused some tension between Wonder and Beck. Beck felt that Wonder had promised him the song, and releasing it first broke that promise. But the decision had been made by Motown executives, and there wasn't much Wonder could do about it once they insisted on releasing his version as a single. Today, everyone thinks of Superstition as a Stevie Wonder original, which technically it is, but the backstory of it being written for Beck and the controversy around who recorded it first adds an interesting layer to one of the funkiest songs of the 70s. Number 1. Evil Woman by Black Sabbath. Before Black Sabbath became the godfathers of heavy metal, they released their debut album in 1970, which included this song. Evil Woman was actually their first single in the UK, but it was a cover of a song by an American band called Crow. Crow had released their version of Evil Woman in 1969. Their take was bluesy, hard rock with horns, fitting the era's sound. It did reasonably well in some markets, but wasn't a massive hit. Black Sabbath, who'd recently changed their name from Earth, heard the song and decided to record it. They removed the horns and added Tony Iommi's devastating guitar work and Ozzy Osbourne's distinctive vocals. The result was heavier and darker than Crow's version, pointing toward the direction Sabbath would take with their original material. Interestingly, Evil Woman was replaced on the American pressing of Black Sabbath's debut album with their original song, Wicked World. This means that American fans might not even know the song exists unless they sought out the UK version or later reissues. The fact that Black Sabbath's first single was a cover is something many metal fans don't know. They're associated so strongly with their original material with classics like Paranoid, Iron Man, and War Pigs that people forget they started out by covering someone else's song. But Evil Woman served as a bridge between their blues roots and the heavy metal sound they would pioneer. These 15 songs prove that sometimes a cover can become more famous than the original, so much so that people forget there ever was an original. The 70s were full of artists finding great material and making it their own. What makes a cover better than the original? Sometimes it's the vocalist, sometimes the production, sometimes just timing. The right song reaching the right audience at the right moment. These artists took existing songs and transformed them into something new that resonated with their generation. If you enjoyed discovering which of your favorite 70s songs were actually covers, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. What other songs from the 70s surprised you? Drop a comment and let us know.